Iran spent decades building the perfect hiding place. Not a basement, not a reinforced building, an actual mountain. Carved from the inside out, lined with concrete, protected by some of the hardest rock on Earth, and buried so deep that every military planner in the world assumed it was untouchable. And for a long time, they were right. No bomb in existence could reach it. No missile could penetrate far enough. No air force on the planet had a weapon capable of getting through hundreds of meters of solid granite, layers of reinforced concrete, blast doors, decoy entrances, and underground tunnel systems that spread out in every direction like the roots of a tree. Except one country was quietly building exactly that weapon. And when the moment finally came, they dropped it. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now because this channel breaks down the biggest military and geopolitical stories on the planet as they happen. And what we're covering today is one of the most technically extraordinary stories of this entire conflict. Let's start with the mountain, because this is where the entire story begins. Iran doesn't just have one underground military complex. It has approximately 30 of them. Spread across the Zagros and Alborz mountain ranges of western and central Iran, these facilities were built over decades with one specific purpose: to survive a war exactly like the one that just happened. These aren't simple tunnels dug into a hillside. According to detailed reporting and satellite analysis, these facilities sit at depths of between 400 and 1,500 feet into granite bedrock. Let that number sink in for a second. 1,500 feet of solid rock above your head. Inside these mountains, Iranian military engineers didn't just dig storage rooms, they built entire cities, automated rail systems running through interconnected tunnel networks, compartmentalized blast-resistant doors, sealed off separate sections from each other, assembly areas where missiles could be put together underground, never exposed to the sky, storage depots for warheads, fuel, and launch equipment, concealed exits, sometimes disguised as ordinary hillsides, from which transporter erector launchers could emerge, fire a ballistic missile, and disappear back inside within minutes. Iran calls them missile cities, and based on everything analysts have observed, the name isn't an exaggeration. The philosophy behind them is simple but brilliant. Every military force that might threaten Iran has to strike from above. Bombs fall downward, missiles travel through the air. Aircraft can be shot down before they deliver their payload. But a mountain doesn't care about any of that. You can bomb the entrance until it collapses. You can hit the hillside around it. You can create craters visible from space, and the facility 100 meters below the surface of the rock might not feel a thing. This is exactly what made Iran's underground missile program so difficult to neutralize and so deeply frustrating to planners in Washington and Tel Aviv for years. There's one specific facility that captures just how extreme this logic became: the Yazd base. According to intelligence assessments, this facility is buried 500 meters inside a mountain, specifically constructed from Shirkuh granite, one of the hardest types of rock on Earth. This isn't an ordinary stone. Shirkuh granite can withstand pressures far beyond anything conventional building materials could even approach. Engineers who've studied it describe it as one of the most challenging materials in existence for any penetrating weapon to get through. 500 meters of that material, an automated rail system inside, multiple exits, compartmentalized sections, so that even a partial penetration can't destroy the whole thing. And sitting inside, according to estimates, are ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drone stockpiles, all waiting for a launch order that could be issued from underground without the operators ever having to go above the surface. Now here's where the weapon comes in. For decades, the United States had been watching Iran build these facilities, and for decades, the honest internal assessment was uncomfortable. The existing bunker buster, bombs, even the most powerful ones, couldn't reach deep enough. Iran knew that. The United States knew that. And Iran's entire underground missile program was built on that specific gap in American capability. The bunker buster that existed before was the GBU-28, a weapon that had been in service since 1991, originally developed in just 17 days during the Gulf War to destroy Iraqi command bunkers. It was revolutionary for its time, but Iran studied it, calculated exactly how deep it could penetrate, and built its facilities deeper. So the United States had a choice: accept that these facilities were effectively untouchable using conventional weapons, or build something new, something bigger, something that had never existed before in the history of warfare. What they built was the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator, the MOP. The GBU-57 is, in simple terms, the largest non-nuclear bomb ever built. It weighs roughly 13,600 kilograms. That's approximately 30,000 pounds, or around 15 metric tons, of steel and high explosives packed into a single weapon. For comparison, the bomb dropped on Hiroshima weighed around 4,500 kilograms. This thing is 3 times heavier, and it's designed not to create a massive surface explosion, but to disappear underground before it detonates. The engineering behind how it does that is extraordinary. The outer casing is not just steel. It's a specialized hardened alloy designed to survive the violence of punching through layers of rock and concrete without deforming or breaking apart before the weapon reaches its target depth. Inside, a precision delay fuse monitors exactly how many layers of material the bomb has passed through using sensors that detect the difference between each impact as the bomb crashes through soil, then concrete, then rock, then more concrete. The fuse doesn't trigger the explosion until the bomb has penetrated to the depth it's been programmed to reach. And here's the piece that really makes this weapon unique. When the US military realized some Iranian facilities were buried deeper than even the GBU-57 could reach alone, they developed what's called a double tap tactic. 2 GBU-57 bombs are dropped in sequence on the exact same GPS coordinate. The first bomb hits and detonates, carving a deep initial crater and opening up the material below. The second bomb then falls into that existing crater, using the cleared path to travel significantly deeper before it detonates. Essentially, the first bomb does the drilling, the second bomb does the destroying. This technique was specifically developed with Iran's deepest facilities in mind. There's only one aircraft in the world capable of carrying the GBU-57, the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. And critically, the B-2 can carry only 2 of them at a time because of the sheer size and weight of each weapon. That's not a trivial limitation. It means that for a strike on a major underground complex requiring multiple weapons on multiple aim points, you need multiple B-2s flying in sequence, each one loaded with its 2 bombs, all coordinated to hit their targets in the right order. That's exactly what Operation Midnight Hammer was. 7 B-2 stealth bombers, flying from a base in Missouri, covered a distance of nearly halfway around the world in a single mission. Each B-2 carried 2 GBU-57 MOPs. A total of 14 of these massive bombs were dropped, targeting Iran's nuclear facilities at Fordo and Natanz. The Joint Chiefs Chairman reported afterward that the lead B-2 dropped 2 MOPs on Fordo as the first aircraft in the sequence, with the remaining bombers hitting their targets in turn. Fordo is built inside a mountain near the city of Qom, roughly 95 kilometers southwest of Tehran. It sits approximately 80 meters underground, protected by rock, reinforced concrete, and, until those defenses were systematically dismantled by prior strikes, layered surface-to-air missile systems. It was widely considered the most hardened nuclear facility in Iran's entire program. After the strike, General Dan Kane stated that all 3 targeted sites, Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan, had sustained what he described as extremely severe damage and destruction. Satellite imagery afterward showed massive craters and scorch marks blanketing the mountainside above Fordo. But here's where it gets genuinely complicated, and this is the part most people glossed over, because not everyone agreed on what actually happened inside. While the official assessment from the Pentagon was that the sites had been severely damaged, a separate intelligence assessment that later emerged suggested a different picture. According to that assessment, the nuclear program may have been set back by only a matter of months rather than years, and possibly not permanently destroyed at all. The underground chambers themselves, particularly at Fordo, may have survived better than the surface imagery suggested. That disconnect matters enormously, because the entire justification for the operation, the entire reason for using the most powerful conventional bomb ever built and flying 7 stealth bombers halfway around the world, was that the GBU-57 was the only weapon that could reach deep enough to permanently end the nuclear threat at these sites. If it didn't fully accomplish that, the question of what comes next is a genuinely difficult one. And now there's a second weapon in the story, one that's arguably even more significant in terms of what it signals about where American bunker-busting capability is heading. The GBU-72 Advanced 5K Penetrator. This weapon weighs 5,000 pounds, a fraction of the GBU-57, but it uses a completely different design philosophy. Rather than relying purely on mass and penetration depth to achieve its effect, the GBU-72 uses a GPS guidance system of extreme precision, combined with a high explosive warhead specifically optimized for detonating after penetration, inside the target rather than on the surface above it. The GBU-72 made its combat debut during Operation Epic Fury, when U.S. forces used it to strike hardened coastal missile sites along Iran's coastline near the Strait of Hormuz. These weren't the deepest mountain facilities. They were underground storage bunkers for Iran's anti-ship cruise missiles, the Noor, Qadr, and Abu Mahdi systems, designed to threaten vessels transiting the strait. Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane publicly confirmed the weapon's use, describing these munitions as bespokely designed to get through concrete and rocks, and function after penetrating those barriers. The GBU-72 was then reportedly used again in subsequent operations against underground ammunition depots elsewhere in Iran, each time targeting facilities that conventional bombs simply couldn't reach. What makes the GBU-72 particularly interesting strategically is exactly what we discussed earlier. The GBU-57 can only be carried by a B-2, of which the United States has a very limited number. The GBU-72 can potentially be integrated onto a much wider range of aircraft, including tactical fighters and other bombers. That means more missions can be flown, more targets can be hit per day, and the pace of strikes against hardened facilities can increase dramatically compared to what was possible when only B-2s could do this job. But here's the thing that really changes the picture. Iran has more underground facilities than any bombing campaign has been able to fully neutralize. Analysts who tracked Operation Epic Fury noted that while the campaign struck around 77% of visible tunnel entrances, the true extent of the underground networks remained difficult to fully assess. Iranian military engineers had pre-positioned excavation equipment near the entrances, specifically for exactly this scenario. When an entrance was bombed and collapsed, crews could begin clearing it within hours. Satellite imagery later confirmed that multiple sites struck by U.S. forces were restored to operation faster than anyone expected. Iran also built redundancy into the entire system. Rather than relying on a small number of massive complexes, it spread its missiles, drones, and production capacity across multiple facilities of varying size and function. Destroying or degrading one doesn't collapse the network. It just shifts the workload to others. This is why the intelligence admission that the campaign may have overestimated damage by at least 50% was so significant when it emerged. It wasn't just an accounting error, it was a statement about the fundamental limits of what even the most powerful bunker-busting weapons in history can accomplish against a system specifically designed to survive them. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe, because this arms race between underground fortification and bunker-busting technology is one of the most consequential stories in modern military history, and it's far from over. So where does all of this leave us? The United States spent roughly 15 years developing the GBU-57, tested it in secret, and finally used it in combat in the biggest stealth bombing mission in American history. The bomb did significant damage to Iran's most fortified nuclear sites, but whether that damage was permanent or whether Iran can rebuild and restore its capabilities over the coming months remains a genuinely contested question. Meanwhile, the GBU-72 represents a new direction, a weapon that trades raw mass for precision and flexibility, extending bunker-busting capability to a wider range of aircraft and a wider range of targets. The fact that it debuted in combat against Iran and has since been used in multiple strikes signals that the U.S. military sees it as a core part of how these kinds of operations get done going forward. And Iran, for its part, keeps digging. Recent satellite imagery has reportedly shown new tunnels being excavated at greater depths than existing facilities, suggesting that Iran's engineers are already accounting for the capabilities of the weapons that just hit them and building their next generation of underground infrastructure accordingly. That's what makes this story so much bigger than any single strike or single bomb. It's an arms race that's been running in parallel with this entire conflict. One side building deeper, harder, more redundant underground facilities, and the other side building heavier, smarter, more penetrating weapons to reach them. And based on everything that's happened over the past several months, neither side is close to giving up. So here's the question I want to leave you with. Do you think the United States has now crossed a line where no underground facility in the world can consider itself truly safe from a conventional strike? Or do you think Iran's engineers will find ways to dig deeper and build stronger than any bomb can follow? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you want to stay updated as this story develops, make sure you're subscribed, because the technology at the center of this conflict is evolving faster than almost anyone expected. And the next chapter could change the military balance in ways nobody has fully accounted for yet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.